All right. So the recording has started, folks, and by continuing to be in this meeting, you're all consenting to be recorded. So welcome, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to our weeks 5 and 6 webinar of Data 495, Section 7380. I'm going to be skipping the next slide, which you all know is for the etiquette. So really don't mean to go through that. It's all open. You can all chime in at any point. And if you for any questions or whatsoever, as long as you keep the distraction and any disturbance away, it should be fine, right? And of course, we'll still plan to get it done quickly, understanding that it's just a day after Thanksgiving. I'll try to be time conscious and get this within the hour. So today's agenda, we'll kind of, again, I'm trying to do it a little differently. I'm not trying to, again, bring up any concepts or topics, but pretty much at this point in time, what I would have loved to hear from my professors if I was in your shoes, or my instructor, my professor, what kind of an advice I would have loved to get if I was in part of the class. And that's what I'm kind of trying to bring in at this point, because as I was just saying a couple of minutes back, you guys are so close to completing the course, so close to completing the degree as such, and that's huge, guys. That's amazing. That's tremendous. That's a lot of hard work that has gone in, a lot of time, a lot of sacrifice that has gone in, and so I want to kind of this webinar and the next one, I want to see that I can give you the best advice I can, and bringing in all the experiences of a student at one point myself, and also what I'm seeing in the workforce, so bringing in that experience as well, and try to have you kind of go with that kind of an advice and suggestions for whatever you need from going forward. Okay, so that's going to be my kind of an agenda, if you will, from that perspective. Then, of course, want to touch base on your deliverables due, right? Very important. I really want to spend some time because I'm seeing some recurring things within the assignment, which I try to bring it up with feedback, but honestly, a lot of the feedback is not even read, which makes the subsequent assignment look even more bad, right? Because you've not taken into consideration some of the feedback, and I kind of spend time on your assignments. One of the reasons why I've not been as fast as other courses, because it takes time for me to go through everything and try to give you all the suggestions and advice I could give you to do well in your assignment. So please, if you're here in this webinar today, or you're watching this recording, please make sure that you read the feedback, right? You understand what I'm trying to tell you, and what things you need to change, or any course correction that you will have to do, or anything that you can enhance your project and get the maximum points. Okay, so that's, again, we'll touch base on that. And then, and of course, the main important reason for this webinar are your questions. So your questions are going to be more important for me to address than anything else in today's session here this evening. So if there are questions that you want to start with and say, well, I need to get this answered right away, then yes, I'm open to that. Let's start with that. So before I move the slide over to kind of and start with what I want to talk to you about, are there any questions that you want me to start with?
I mean, just as far as skipping ahead a little bit to the deliverables due, it's just my main challenge. I just want to make sure I'm keeping within certain things, because I'm wanting to cut back some material, but it might put me below, like, say, like the sentence minimum of like having 2 paragraphs of 6 sentences each. And if I start truncating content, I might fall below that a little bit.
Yeah, and I would not see that kind of a suggestion in the template. It's just a kind of a guideline. I'm
Okay.
not, trust me, I'm not really going on counting the number of sentences or the number of paragraphs you have. I'm going
Okay.
by the quality that you have. So
Okay.
it's just a guideline, and especially
Okay.
with someone who would be going to the other extreme of just putting in a one-liner there, right? So it's more the guideline is for folks who would kind of think, oh, should I be just writing a couple of lines and that's it, or do I need to expand? And that's is what is giving you. But if you've expanded, again, don't want to expand it to a point where you have 10 pages of that section. But again, just good judgment call here, Chase.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you very much.
Sure, sure. Any other question? But excellent question, Chase. Loved it. Thank you for bringing that on. Okay, I'll take that as no. So let's get started. So as I was saying, what I would want to hear from my professor, from my instructor, when I'm so close to, completing my degree, maybe applying for a job, maybe applying for, I'm already in the workforce, maybe I have to apply for a job that's more data science related, because that's the new skill set in your toolkit, right? So first and foremost, I would say basics, guys. Basics are very, very important. And you'd say, what do you mean, right? I mean, yes, we've gone through a couple of years of going through all the, courses, learning about different things, different aspects of data science. So we've covered all that. We are now into AI, deep learning. I get that, right? I absolutely agree that you are really have gone beyond that. But trust me, um, I would have loved to hear this when I did my master's, or when I did my graduation. I was so far ahead that some of the basics I would either not go back and brush it on, or maybe I'll just do it when I need it, and that's fine too. But I always felt that, especially for a subject like data science, basics are really the key. Sometimes we go so far ahead. We talk about neural networks, we talk about machine learning, we talk about hyperparameter tuning, but then we get stumbled when somebody asks you a simple question on linear regression. or hey, and have you done anything in ANOVA? Have you done something like that? Have you done linear regression? And in few months time you could be stumped and said, yes, I remember doing it, and I know it's one of the easiest modeling, but I don't know, I don't recall what exactly it was. And that's the I don't want you to be in that tough spot. I want you to be very confident in some of these aspects, because you could be, probably interviewed question on these certain aspects. I don't want you to feel, oh my God, I just did an entire degree on data science, and here somebody asked me such a simple question and I couldn't really answer that. So I don't really want you to feel bad about that fact. So basics, basics, basics. If I were you, I know you've gone through many of the courses. It's quick, 8 weeks and you're out. And some things that you would have thought, oh, maybe I want to go back and learn something that I've learned, and then maybe not paid too much attention, or just did for the sake of, or maybe for the grades. I get it, right, guys? I've been a student myself. Things happen, and we've not put enough time for, or not have taken some time to understand certain aspects. Go back to it, and again, do not wait for that time to come and say, if somebody asks me that question, I will go and figure it out. Or somebody puts me on the spot and asks me to do some linear regression, I'll figure it out. Again, good thing. That's a good technique, but do not wait for that. Try to see that you can go through some of these aspects now. And trust me, you'll remember this. In a few months' time, you'll remember this slide when I say the basics. And I'll tell you the reasons why I'm telling you about this, right? I'm going to get to that. I'm not just saying for the sake of, right? Just saying, hey, guys, go back and brush things. I'll tell you the reason why in a couple of slides. So just hang on, just bear with me for a couple of slides. So there was this nice quote from an American neurologist, and then I just really loved it. It says a lot in what is meant here. Before we work on artificial intelligence, why don't we do something about natural stupidity? Right? It's a wonderful quote, and you can just wait for a couple of seconds, or just think about this and for a second. So what is Stephen Polyak is trying to say here? What he's trying to say here is something what we are just talking about right now. The basics, right? Are we if natural stupidity could come from for many different reasons, right? It could be because of something like, as we hear, there's so much of fake news going on. There's so much on social media, and so many things that have been, sometimes people take that as real. Sometimes that half knowledge could be, is taken as a full-on knowledge, and thinking that you know everything, right? Or something that, sometimes, yes, this stupidity has, and I don't want to say this, I want to say this in a very nicer way, but because of all the social media and all of that, and the content on the web that may or may not be appropriate, but think of the times that many things that are put out there today are sometimes, without even validating it, people are using it, and using it as with that confidence, saying this is real, this is true facts, and sometimes they are not. So because of that, because of all that content, even today, even chat gpt, we talked about, the other day, about hallucination and all that stuff, right? Sometimes it just comes up with some crap, and we take it thinking, oh, this is right, and we just don't think about it. So before we even are really trying to build AI, machine learning models, AI, systems, we need to make sure that we understand the basics. We know the real facts here. We know what things are, what is A, what is B, what is A equal to B, and so on and so forth, right? We need to really understand all of that. So why are basics important? One of the reasons why is you will now go out, right? You'll get out of college. You probably already in workforce like Avenir is, and maybe Avenir is looking to get through this degree to say, okay, I want to get into a data science job within my own company because they have a wonderful, probably a data science department. Or Heda could say, maybe I want to go for a new job completely. And Chase could say, okay, well, I'm going to see what's out there and see if I can then something at my workplace or maybe somewhere else, right? So a lot of things, and you may be all going out and doing things within data science. So you're going to meet people in all this in different spectrum here. You're going to meet people in one edge of the spectrum as who know nothing about data science. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you're going to also meet people who are truly data scientists, who have been around for the longest time. So both these types of people, you'll not be challenged. They're not dangerous, right? The people on the left-hand side who know nothing about data science, well, they're going to be learning from you, right? And so they know nothing about data science. So whatever you teach them or you tell them, they're just going to say, okay, well, thank you for that, and I learned something new. People who are truly data scientists, well, they are not dangerous too or not challengers too, because they are really going to be helping you. These are the people that you're going to be learning from. The biggest challenges comes with dealing with people who are having less or half knowledge. And they are the ones who are going to challenge you more because than anybody else in the spectrum, because of, they would challenge you because of whatever they have in their mind, or maybe because they don't know. They're going to be asking you hundreds of questions, right? The other day we talked about machine interpretability, right? Interpretation of your data models is going to be so important, right? Why is it so important? Because you may be, presenting to people who are really going to be funding your next project, people who are going to be approving your project to kind of go on and do what you intend to do. People who are going to understand it, because they are the ones who are going to say, okay, well, yes, Chase, you can go ahead and do it. Ada, that's fine. Avnir, that's fine, right? Or here's the funding for what you need to do, right? And if they do not understand, they are not going to do that. No matter how fabulously you build your case, if they don't understand what you are trying to build, or what your model is telling, and how you built all that, and why you come up with all that conclusion, they're not going to do it. They're just going to simply say, well, nothing more, right? And people with half knowledge are going to say, well, this should have been like this, or this should have been that. But if you know the basics very well, you are going to take on the challenge. You're going to take the head on and say, okay, well, what you're talking is not appropriate, not right, right? This thing cannot have what you're talking about, or what you're talking is something completely different. You will have to prove it to them, because they are the people who are challenging you. So the ones in the middle that you are going to be mostly dealing with, trust me, you deal with this kind of people the most. And I'm telling you with experience, right? I've been challenged the most by the people in the middle of the spectrum, who just hear something and listen. Just understand, you have probably spent couple of years, more than a couple of years, completing this degree. Somebody would have just done like a 2 weeks course in data science, and they would have learned something or kept something in mind, and they would come in and ask you 100 questions or start challenging you, because they think they know it all, but they really don't, right? So that's why, if your basics are strong, if you know what you've done, and you know how to present, communicate it, bingo, you've done it. You'll not be challenged. You will not feel challenged at all, even with people who are right in the middle of the spectrum. Does that make sense to you guys? Do you guys agree?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
Yeah, makes sense.
that's one of the reasons why I say, and again, I wish I would have been given the same advice when I got out, because I got out and I would meet people. I've spent like a couple of years doing my master's, doing my test and all of that, and all the extra courses, all the extra work, extra project. And there would come someone who had absolutely, I would say zero knowledge, not being disrespectful, but somebody with just, doing like a one certification or 1 week or a 1 weekend course, and start challenging everything that I would have done. And just because I may not communicate well, or I may not, really make them understand very well, gone. And that's why you learned about data storytelling. Very, very important, guys. Trust me. You would want to really, if I were you at this point in time, besides the basic, think about storytelling, think about presenting your stuff, think about communicating it. Because you could write 40 pages of project report, and this is what happens. It will be just flung away in few seconds and say, nope, we're not doing this anymore in us. We don't need to do this. And you would have spent hours and days and nights into this. And this has happened, guys. This happens in corporate world. And I don't want you to kind of experience that ever, but yes, this experience also do come in. Some of you already may have experienced, have seen this, because you're already part of the corporate world. But if not, be prepared. That happens. So the more you've covered your basics, you've more covered your ground, the more you know how you're going to tell your story, better off you would be. Okay. So talking about AI now, right? This is something that you learned in the last couple of weeks. You were talking about AI, machine learning, what is deep learning. So let me start with this view here, this picture. Why do you think I put this vending machine here picture? Anyone wants to take a stab at it? You can make a joke out of it as well. No problem. Go ahead, guys. Take a stab at it. Why do you think I put a vending machine here when I'm talking about AI? Anybody? Any guesses?
It's built on cement blocks that look like they could topple over any
That's a
moment.
good.
So,
I'm glad you take a stab at it, Chase. I give you full points for that. But okay, anyone else want to take a stab at it? We're talking about AI. Why am I putting a vending machine out here? Anyone
I'm
else?
gonna guess again that you probably just want a solid foundation to your code. So I mean,
No,
I guess
I
like
like how you're thinking, Chase. I like how you're thinking. So
yeah, and so like the cement blocks are not a good foundation and just poorly written code, and maybe having a
okay,
better foundation should be good written code that helps support your product, which is then the Pepsi machine.
good reading there, Chase. Good reading. I like that. But the reason, I'll tell you the reason now. The reason is this is by far, of course, there's Turing machines that were the first artificial intelligence machine, you could say. The Turing machines are being considered today in all academia, any kind of a scholarly material. You'll hear that one of the first machines, AI machines to be built, was around 1950s, called the Turing machines. But if something that was really out there for consumption by general public, if something that made machines work based on what you want to get done in an automated fashion, it was the vending machine. So this is something that you could say as your first AI machine that really we kind of came to know that, hey, by giving certain rules, you could make a machine do things for you, do stuff for you. So this is inarguably one of the, you could say, the one of the the early AI machines that was built, and this is how it all. And I shouldn't say this is how, but yeah, there were other, of course, there were other machines as well. But it's how things started. This is whole thing about not going to a convenience store, but going straight to a vending machine, and the whole popularity of it also kind of see everything needs to have that buy-in from a general public, that consumption, right? If EVs are not bought, these electric cars are not bought, then it goes down. Remember AT&T and came up with a picture in phone way back in 1970s. Could you believe that? Early 60s or 70s, there were phones that would show the picture of the person on the other line. And you'd say, what? Really? Yes. It's before the smartphones came up with all those cell phones that now we use, that we have all those, FaceTiming. You could do that in early 70s. But then you say, why didn't it go ahead? Because there were no buyers for it. And the buyers meaning it was pretty an expensive thing to do or to have, and in those days. So it fell apart. There were no buyers for it. People who wanted to buy, they thought this technology was too expensive, whatever it was. But if there's no buying from general public, it dies off, right? But this is because of the popularity of it, people wanted to do even more and more and more. So we learned that, yes, by providing certain rules to machines, like a vending machine, you put certain amount of money into it, it will get you and fetch you, and you choose something, it will fetch you what you've asked for. Well, that was exactly how machines we started working. We wanted machines to do more. So going back to going to the next slide here is now looking at this you holistically. Now you want to, you were just, I know, all the time thinking about the rule-based kind of machines or systems, right? Hey, if this person puts in this amount and clicks on this, you give this Coke or you give the water bottle or whatever it is. You wanted then machines to not just, not just rely on your rules, but they make their own rules based on the data you provided. And that comes along machine learning. You wanted machine to learn by itself by looking at the data, what rules it need to make to get to the output, the desired output. And so there comes machine learning. Artificial intelligence, well, you have entire, you want to make the machines really, work based on how you kind of programmed it, what kind of rules you want, or what rules they could develop by itself. So the machine learning and deep learning you have, like deep learning is nothing but the subset of some of those machine learning techniques which are based on neural networks, right? That's deep learning. So if you look at it, computer science is like a huge huge set of putting in all these little things here, like artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning, and so on. But if you look at data science is everything that includes artificial intelligence, right? If you have this huge large bubble there, it's part of the data science, which includes everything that you can think about: data mining, your machine learning techniques, your deep learning. They all fit in this, of this data science here. So a good picture to keep in mind, again, because people, as talking in one of the previous webinars, people talk about this very loosely, right? Sometimes they interchangeably say things for, like, AI is deep learning, or deep learning is machine learning. Sometimes people just use it. So again, going to the basics, you are the one who are going to correct them and say, guys, no, machine learning is not equal to deep learning, or deep learning is not AI. But remember this picture in mind, draw this picture for them so that you can tell what exactly it is, right? Because you are the ones who are not, remember, you're not just ones just acting or building models. You'll also be working along with teams, or teams of people, or your leadership, right? Who may or may not be as apt as you are in data science. So understanding this, knowing this, and keeping this in mind is going to be very important. The other picture that comes to my mind, which has existed even before, you'll find hundreds of pictures. Like, you go on Google, you can find lots and lots of all these illustrations, but certain illustrations, they just stand out. And one of the things that has really helped me, and keep me kind of guided along with what I need to do, are all some of these illustrations. Like, this one has been existed for many years, but it's a very simple, clear picture of showing all the different types of machine learning. Is supervised, unsupervised, what goes into unsupervised, what are some of the things, what are some of the things in supervised learning, like classification. You have regression, right? Something in reinforcement learning. What do you have there, right? What do you have as part of unsupervised? You have clustering as part of unsupervised. Again, the goal is, I don't want to kind of go through this picture and I kind of talk about it. We could spend the entire webinar doing that. My point is that look at some of these illustrations, look at some of these pictures and see, hey, what do I know about it, right? Do I know about it, first of all? If not, what can I learn about this? Maybe I did not learn about it. Maybe I missed learning about it during my time in this degree. So let me then focus on that aspect. Let me learn what this aspect is. That's going to be your key, because again, you can only learn so much within the time you've spent in this degree, but you've just scratched the surface, my friends. So again, if I were you, you'll not just again brush up on the basics, but also look at what is out there, right? It's an ocean. It's a huge ocean, and you need to make sure that you kind of trying to understand a lot about it. What are the different parts here of this ocean that you can know? The other way to kind of also see, again, this is another illustration which has been out there telling you all about different techniques, right? In Bayesian. And again, this may not be very legible here or on the screen. You'll have this slide here. My idea is to give you some of these illustrations and then talk about it through this webinar, and have this at your fingertips. And maybe you want to spend time, may not be now, maybe after this course is done, right? Or whenever you get a chance, look at some of these illustrations and see, hey, what's an ensemble? What goes into decision trees? What different types of decision trees are out there, right? What different types of dimensional reductions are there? How can I do just PCA, right? What is a PCA? What is PLSR, right? Not that everything you need to know. I'm not saying that you need to know each and everything that is listed here, but try to understand, at least know some of the aspects of each one of them, because you will hit to some of this at some point in time. And every time it's not always going to be deep learning. A lot of that's another misconception that people have, that just because some of the advancements that we have done, that only the advanced techniques can really solve your problem. That's not going to be the case. Trust me, even today, there are going to be problems that could be solved by basic machine learning algorithms better than any of your advanced algorithms, right? It doesn't need to have an LLM. It doesn't need to have a deep learning based model. It doesn't need to have a neural network. It is good with a linear regression. It is good with log regression. That's all it needs to do, and that's it. And or maybe it's good with a decision tree. Some of your problems could be solved by this technique. So these techniques are not throwaway. So again, there are people who have talked to me and say, "Oh, these are all old techniques. You got to go to new techniques." There is nothing like old and new. They are old because they have been around. They were the ones that were, designed, developed much ahead of time and thought about. Yes, you're right. Deep learning came into existence, came into play because of the computation, how the computation evolved. So don't think it's old and new, but think of that. Hey, these are all the techniques that I should have it as part of my toolkit. I should be aware of. And if I am, then yes, I'm going to become a true data scientist, right? So start building your skills, start having these as part of your toolkit. And the other way of looking at the same illustration put in a different way, right? Again, trying to see how differently you want to kind of remember things. What is going to help you to remember some of these aspects? And by going through this, you will not have to really memorize the picture, but sometimes looking at the picture a few times, it is much more powerful than just reading about these algorithms or trying to remember the words, right? That's just how it has helped me. The words really, these pictures are more helpful. And they always say, right, pictures say more than 1,000 words. Well, it's so true. If I remember some of these illustrations, well, I have to just think about it. I get a problem on hand and I start thinking what is really going to be applied. What technique can I apply? Why am I applying to take this technique? Why do I think this technique will work better here? Right? I would be able to kind of remember all of that by going through these illustrations, looking at it and seeing, okay, what was this picture saying? I remember seeing this. And these were all the different techniques as part of decision tree, or this is all the different techniques as part of unsupervised learning. So again, the whole idea is for you to have this in your back pocket and try to bring it up and see what you want to learn next, right? What is still remain that, you need to kind of go back and look at. And then at some point, right, when you're ready for building your model, right, or you have a project on hand, right, you're currently working on your project. What did you start with? You started with your problem definition, like your scope, right? You wanted to see what problem are you trying to solve. That is very important. If you don't know what you're trying to solve, there's no point going all along and doing all that analysis of data and doing statistical analysis and all the visualization, right? It's important to know the problem, understand the problem, understand the data. What data are we getting? What is the motivation? Motivation is just solving a problem? No, motivation has to be beyond. You're solving a problem for X, Y, and Z. That X, Y, and Z could be, maybe to get a more profit out of it, to do some cost savings, or to make sure that your customers stay with you. You want to understand the customer churn and so on. There has to be a good return on investment you're going to make here. You're going to be asked this question every time in the corporate world. When you're working on a project, they're going to say, by working on this project, what is the return on investment? you and your team are going to be spending the next n number of days, weeks, or months working on this whole idea. So what at the end, right? At the end, you cannot say, oh yes, we will know why customers are losing, we are losing customers on our for our from our service, right? You have to say, okay, we are losing customers, but by understanding this is how you have to solve the problem of customer churn, right? It is not just understanding who are, but this is okay saying that if my customers churn or they move out of our service or leave our company because of these factors, then this is how we can work on these factors, right? If they are going because, hey, they are not getting good customer service, they take 10 minutes when they call a customer line, yes, then your conclusion should be that get someone our customer service. We need to have more agents that can handle the calls because we are losing customers because of the customer service not being provided within 10 minutes of when people call us, right? On a customer service line. Whatever. I'm just giving an example that you have to think holistically. You cannot be solving this problem by saying, hey, my problem was I wanted to find out about customer churn. I found out all these other factors of customer churn and I'm done. No, you will not be done. In real world, you have to show how or what you got, like what you've shown, what you enough said concluded with, this is what the factors of churn. Then what you're going to do next is how you're going to complete the project, right? So again, what's the motivation, right? Then how are you going to analyze your data? How you're preparing the data? What are the different steps in preparing the data? How you're going to evaluate the algorithms, right? Which some of it you're already doing that. But again, look at this view here, right? Even for your current project that you're working on, look at this illustration and see that if it is helpful, right? As any aspect from this illustration that can really help you more, or even not, then at least, it will help you to remember what are the different steps you need to go through. Okay. So now let me turn it over to you and ask you, which machine learning model have you built or you're planning to build for your project, and why? Anyone?
Well, for my project, I'm gonna do random forest. Mine is a classification problem, and convolutional neural networks. And I'm gonna compare the results of the
Okay.
classification.
Okay. Very good. Yeah, well, you answered my second question as well. Okay. Was there a particular reason why you picked on random forest, Heda?
I was looking at journals or articles, and in one of them, I think they were comparing classical machine learning techniques, and I think the best one for AQI index was random forest. And I wanted to test it, but instead of doing the same project of comparing classical machine learning, I decided to do random forest, which was the best one according to that study, and one deep learning technique. That's why I decided.
No, very good. No, that's an excellent answer, Heda. Thank you so much. No, you really helped it. And that was the whole purpose of this whole exercise, or this slide here, was to not just ask you question which why, but you also want to understand why you're doing something, right? Why have you picked this primary model? So whenever you pick it, right, even if anyone else has not really reached this point in your project, any project that you go through, including the one that you're currently working on, think about why you would want to use a particular technique, right? Why you would use another technique, which other technique here? keep answering why, because if you can answer this yourself very clearly, trust me, when somebody challenges you, your model, or even just not, I shouldn't use the word challenges all the time, but even just questions you, right? Hey, you use random forest. Why? Why don't you use C5.0? Why don't you use only a decision tree? Why don't you use XGBoost? People can randomly, because they know certain points. As I said, some of the people remember the middle spectrum, right? Those are the people who would have heard about, like there was a guy. I'll tell you a very quickly. I'll tell you an experience I had many years back, and I was working on a model here, and I was trying to work on a very simple model, because I knew that that model really works with that kind of a log regression. So I said, oh no, this is a better. And this person may have read about the Kaggle competitions, and Kaggle competitions were probably very popular, and not that it's not now, but yes, it was much more popular because everybody wanted to try everything, and Kaggle always had some very rich data sets and excellent competitions going on, and some of these competitions even leading to hiring these people being hired by companies. So there would be even competition. So again, this person may have read all that and heard about XGBoost and said, oh, you should use XGBoost. And I said, well, that's very good. I'm glad you kind of read that. But again, XGBoost is an algorithm that if you have more of a numerical data than categorical data, or if you would have converted your categorical data into numerical data, then XGBoost works well. If you do not have that kind of a numerical data, it doesn't work well, period, because it likes to work with only numbers mostly. So I gave that explanation. The person did not know. He was just throwing out names because he learned that somewhere and he heard it. Again, or maybe he was trying to help me. Again, I'm not saying he was not. Maybe he was trying to tell me, hey, there's another algorithm which will work well. But again, going back to the basics, right? I knew why XGBoost could be used. I used it myself before for one of the competitions. So I knew what it is and then what it really does and how it does things. So I was able to address that question and help that person. But if I would say, I don't know why I did not use it, that would kind of show that you're not probably confident of what you're presenting. Again, doing some of that homework really helps. Okay. So again, so for the others, or if you're just watching this recording, whichever model you use, try to address this question, why you're using it. And if you're going to be comparing it with something else, why? Many times the answer could be, well, I want to try. I never worked with a CNN model. I never worked with a random forest. So I want to see it working. And maybe this is an excellent data set for the random forest to work on. That's a good answer. I'm not saying that's a bad answer at all. But having that clarity in mind as to why you're using something is very important. Okay. All right. So moving on to your assignment. Let me start by saying very, very important to understand that your project, your capstone project, which comprises of 5 assignments, it's building a document, it's building a project report. So what you start with assignment 1 kind of keeps growing. When you got the template, you had different sections to fill in. What I'm seeing by many of you, and not just on the folks on the call today, but and I hope people are seeing this recording, but many of you just take out and keep only assignment 1, take out everything else. When they work on assignment 2, they bring in assignment 2, just chop off all the different areas. That's not the point. We are not really looking at an assignment by assignment, only blocks. You're looking at how you are building this complete document right from assignment 1 to assignment 5. So please do not delete stuff from the template because you have not worked on or because you worked in the previous assignment. You need to keep that, because at the end, you're going to be looking at the whole report, which should make sense right from executive summary all the way up to references. It should be a really having a good flow, right? You should not be doing something in assignment 1 and assignment 5 just comes up with a different conclusion altogether, right? The whole idea of this 5 parts or project is, and not having different assignments for doing different things. You're just working on your project and you're building this entire report. So keep everything intact from previous assignments, and what is there in the future, you just leave it there. Because if you chop it off, then you don't know what you're working on. Folks have just chopped off completion history. Folks have, and I'm not seeing some of the lessons learned that is already chopped off. Please do not do that. Again, I've provided that feedback to you. And one of the reasons why, if you're not getting to that feedback, I see the same thing being continued. So please go back. And if you are going to be submitting future assignments, if you're submitting for assignment 4, I want to see your assignment 1, 2, 3, 4, and anything that's remaining for 5, that's fine. So once again, let me repeat, anything that you've done in a previous assignment should be part of that document that you would be submitting for your future assignments. Is that clear? Did everybody get it? Anyone here on the call today? Any questions on that?
Can you repeat that last sentence one last time? You cut out for a little bit, or I
Sure.
must have cut out.
So what I'm saying is, when you are submitting any assignment, I don't want you to chop any parts of the template. So when you're submitting assignment 3, for example, you should have stuff the same what you had submitted for assignment 1. You should have your assignment 2 there, and you should have assignment 3. You're basically building this entire project report, but you're not taking it everything submitting in 8 weeks. You're submitting parts of it, but those parts should not be chopped off from your report. Did that make sense, Chase? I hope I did not confuse anybody here.
It make more sense now.
Okay. Chase, did I address your question?
Yeah, you did. You did. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay. So keep the template as is, even for future things. That's fine. Even if assignment 5 is not done, 4 is not done, just leave those things as is. You don't need to chop them off. The references should go at the end. Put the references in the references section in the end. Okay. So very important that you do this, because we are not treating assignment by assignment. We are looking at the holistic report. When I would be really grading you on assignment 5, it will be looking at your entire report, basically. And that's why if you want to kind of go back, make some changes while you're doing assignment 3, like let's say your assignment 2 is data exploration, you work on data visualization and you realize, hey, I need to change something for data, data exploration. Yes, you can go back and change it. I'm not saying change completely, but yeah, there could be subtle changes. Or maybe you'll say, oh, I can do a little better here. Let me add something in here. Same thing like when you're working for assignment 4 on your data modeling. Okay, you may think, oh, I can have 2 more visuals. Go ahead and add that. You don't need to tell me here in data modeling. You don't need to write it. Think of this report is something that you can carry in your interview. Think that this report could be read by someone and read by someone, and like you give it to them and they understand what you've done. Also, avoid making use of I's in your report. I see that I will do this, I will be doing this. When you look at a project report, a professional project report, you would not see I's. It would be like really, you're talking like, almost like a third party language, or you're using like, how can I say this? I'm trying to explain this better, but avoid using I will, I did this, I will do this, right? you try to make it as saying some entity did this, right? You could put it in a third-party language pretty much. But that's how the academic or your professional project reports are. So think from that perspective. Just you to just, make sure that when you do this at the end, this is something that you can carry with you in this entire, whatever this 10-page, 20-page, or 40-page report in your interview as well. Okay. Any questions? So that was one big thing. I is also another big thing. Completion history and putting in lessons learned section. It is also for every assignment. So please do not delete it. You need to provide some good information there. Okay. Data modeling. This is your key area. This is your key part of the assignment, because you will be now really putting your model together. You're going to be providing information about that model. You're going to be talking about a comparative model that you'll build as well. And then you'll be reviewing the model. So that will be your assignment 4. When you submit for assignment 4, assignment 1 through 4 should be part of your assignment. Okay. Because I should be reading all that and seeing it all makes sense. Does it all make sense? Does it go into a flow? I don't want you to say in the project scope or in your executive summary, we are doing deep learning models for this project. But then when I come to assignment 4, you could be doing random forest, right? Again, Head, I'm not picking on you. I'm just giving an example, okay? But yeah, that's how you want to think about your report. Your executive summary cannot say something different than what you've really done in the report. So there could be little tweaks here and there that can happen, but at the end, everything should flow. So data modeling is an important assignment that is due by the end of this week. And then you have a final assignment where you would be putting up a lot of your findings, right? Any findings that you had, your review of your success or completion of this project, your data privacy and data security issues. What are your recommendations for future analysis? So this is the one of the, although this comes in at the very last one, but this should be at the end. And this is going to be the powerful one, because your findings, all of that is going to be very, very important here. You took on a couple of models, you worked on certain models, you got certain results, you got the results, and by that, what does that result mean to you holistically, right? That's what the findings will come in. So this is one final impact of your project will be seen through this assignment 4 and 5. So spend good time in understanding what should go in here, and then also look back to your previous submissions or previous assignments. What did you write in executive summary? Did you do what you're doing here in assignment 4? So all that, just again, I don't want to kind of keep repeating it, but very important that you take note of this and ensure that your report is really looking solid, because that's what is going to give you points here. Okay, and again, it's not about points. I want you to be successful, guys. So as I keep saying it, I'm not here to deduct points for you, but if you are going to be, you're doing something within the project, if you're late for certain thing, keep me posted, right? If you're not going to keep me posted, it's again, I have to do this for the sake of being reasonable, right? You have to be, you'll end up getting some deductions based on that. I don't want that to happen to you. So keep me posted, keep me informed of some things that you're going through and some challenges that you're facing, or things that are at your end that could be going on. And if I know about it, I'll certainly help you, okay? So again, remember, you have assignment 4. By the time we meet again, the next one, you could be probably in assignment 5. This is the section I was talking about, the completion history, the lessons learned. This is an important section for each assignment. You'd be writing something on it. And most importantly, remember the assignment rubric, which is given to you for every assignment, okay? Also, you are going through discussions. Let me see. Yes, I just got 5 minutes. So let me quickly finish. Remember the force of discussion that we've talked about right before. Post initially by end of day Saturday, comment on 2 classmate posts, respond to any questions or comments from me, right? And then, or from your, even acknowledge from your classmates. If you got anything from your classmates, any comments, you need to acknowledge them, right? And then for late posting or no comments from anyone, you need to comment on your own post to enhance it, right? That's important. So if you follow this 4 of discussions, trust me, you got almost getting to a maximum points here. Okay. And then, so just a course structure here. You're on week 6, 7, and 8. So almost home stretch here. Last few weeks to go until you complete it. Okay. And webinars, we are here on the 4th webinar of the course. Today, we'll have one more on Thursday, December 7th, which is going to be your final week. So it will be pretty much in the last week of the course. Okay. So late policy, again, I know some of you may be hurt by this, but again, this is not the policy I'm making myself. It's the UMGC policy, and so that's why I need to follow it. But if you keep me informed of what challenges or anything, I've been okay with that. I've been absolutely, and I know some of you have done that very well. Some of you have kept me informed, and I've ensured that I've taken that into consideration. So please keep this in mind. If you're just going to be submitting assignments with that and that are really late, it's 3 points reduction. And I've been saying this from day one, that time we have met, that 3% reduction in grade for each day. So if you submitted something couple of weeks, you are just going to be close to a passing grade. Okay. Right. So just please keep this in mind. It's very important. Again, this is not my rules here. So I'm not making the rules around here, but it's the UMGC. And that's the reason why, if they're going to be doing any audit of the course, if they're seeing some courses, there are some assignments being late, but they're not being graded appropriately, we could both be in trouble here. So I don't want to get into that. But if I have a note from you and I'm working with you, I can, of course, say that, hey, yes, there was something going on. And although the student submitted late, there was, we had a plan to, and the student had a plan to submit it late, and that has been taken into consideration, right? So keep that in mind. I'm not here to, just here to deduct points for your assignments, but I want to be fair to you, to other students as well, and ensure that I'm doing the things that I've been guided by UMGC. Okay, so with that, let me see if any questions from anyone.
No, the only question for me is, for example, if I tried the random forest and I didn't like the results, or I didn't like how it performed, and I choose another model, that's okay.
Yes. But again, when you do that, ensure you can go back to what you have thought about earlier and said earlier in your executive summary, or somewhere you would have mentioned, I'm going to do random forest, and then say, well, the random forest was thought about, but we change it to X, Y, and Z model, right? That's fine. Absolutely. Okay. You will always do this even in real life. We start with saying we'll probably try to do something, at the end we do something else, but your report should then reflect that, right, all along.
That's good.
Okay, good question there. Any other questions?
None immediately right now. I think you answered my big one earlier in terms of doing some editorial stuff on the prior assignments.
Okay.
before submitting them in to make sure we're addressing all concerns, but I'm definitely gonna be in touch and I should be caught up with all deliverables within the next few days.
Perfect.
I
Perfect.
have another one.
Sure. go ahead.
For the assignment 5, when we are reporting our findings, we can add screenshots and
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything that you can add here, initial charts, your screenshots, or things that, yes, absolutely. Would be looking forward to that. And it enhances your report. Think about it. If you are going to be reading this or showing someone or asking someone to read it, you would want to really, I would not just spice it up. That may not be a good word to use it, but some way to make it interesting, right? So think that, the more you make your project interesting, innovative way of being creative with it, you'll be really, feeling very good about your project.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, all good questions. Anything else? If not, we can call it a wrap. Thank you all. And Avnir, you can stay back. You had a question. So, but everyone else, thank you all and good luck. And I'll see you guys again in a couple of weeks. Okay.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Professor.
Yeah, just a second.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good night. Let me stop the recording, Avnir.